Welcome to Oulton Park for the start of the UK's fastest and most thrilling entry-level series season, the Radical SR1 Cup 2018. Now in its 6th season, there's a 6-round, 12-race calendar to look forward to. And this weekend, the Radicals share the tarmac with the British GT Championship for one of the biggest meetings. We've got a rookie driver in P3, we've got a returning vice champion in P2 and a shootout winner in P1. It makes for some really interesting racing, loads of excitement amongst the drivers. Let's get race 1 of the 2018 season underway.
Thanks a lot. So let's have a look at the way they line up for the first race of the 2018 season. It is the 2017 Radical SR1 shootout winner, Ryan Harper-Ellen, that's on pole position, and last year's runner-up in the championship, James Pinkerton, alongside Will Hunt and Chris Short sit there on row number 2, and it's Mark Williams and Paul Clark on row 3, with series returnees David Tagg and Peter Devlin on 4, and Gavin McAlpine, another one of the many rookies in the field, sits there on his own at the back row of the grid. Green flag waves at the tail end of the field. We're about to get the season underway for the Radical SR1 Cup. The lights are on the gantry, and the revs begin to rise on the grid, and as the lights go out, it's a good start from both men on the front row of the grid. Ryan Harper-Ellen and James Pinkerton chasing each other up towards Old Hall Corner for the first time, but Ryan Harper-Ellen has the inside line. James Pinkerton looks to try and sweep his way all the way around the outside to take up the lead of the race, and I think he may well have just about had the momentum there as they came round through Old Hall Corner, and it does look as though that is already James Harper-Ellen beginning to slow by the look of things. He's down into 3rd, so it's James Pinkerton that leads the race at this stage. Will Hunt will be through into 2nd position, and yet Ryan Harper-Ellen, in his first race in the Radical SR1 Championship, the 20-year-old from Brackley, looks as though he's got some sort of mechanical issue, having qualified on pole, might possibly be heading towards retirement in the very early stages of the race. There's the number 18 car. That's a rookie for this season, having his first ever race. The CEO from Edinburgh, Mark Williams. He's got off the grid well and is currently going to be circulating in 4th position by the look of things. But it is James Pinkerton that leads the race. It's Will Hunt there, number 21, in 2nd place. He's going well, the estate agent from Brighton. Over Hilltop and in towards a braking area for the Hislops chicane. They come for the first time. The top 3 just beginning to break away. As further down through the order, a great little fight going on amongst the Fangio Cup competitors for drivers in their mid-40s. Peter Devlin was fighting away with David Tagg there. Out of Hislops and round through Knickerbrook for the first time goes the car in 2nd place. Will Hunt trying to hang on to the coattails of James Pinkerton, the race leader, but Pinkerton at the wheel of the number 22 car with the orange crash helmet, pulling away all of the time from Will Hunt in 2nd position. That's Chris Short by the look of things, who's there in 3rd place. Another rookie, the 42-year-old from Wolverhampton, and the blue car, nice and easy to spot, is Mark Williams. He completes the top 4 at the moment. First lap, though, is about to be chalked into the book. Onto the brakes and through Lodge Corner goes Will Hunt. You can see the front end of the car moving around as being pushed into retirement. Yeah, Ryan Harper-Ellen is going to take no further part in the race by the look of things. Not entirely sure what happened, but all of a sudden when the lights went out, he got off the line well, but then just seemed to lose momentum and is unfortunately into retirement in his first race of the season in the Radical SR1 Cup. Big spin for the number 95 car. That's David Tagg, who finished 8th in the championship last year. He will recover, but he will lose a couple of places. I think that's Paul Clark and Peter Devlin going through. So David Tagg had been leading the Fangio class for the drivers aged 45 and above, and it looks as though now he's left himself a chunk of work to do to try and catch the cars that he's just lost the places to. Safely through the right-hander and heading up towards what will be the braking area for Lodge again very shortly comes our race leader, James Pinkerton, on his 2nd lap of the race, building the advantage, building the margin all of the time between himself and Will Hunt. Just doesn't seem to have the pace at this stage of the race, largely because he's not got the same amount of experience as James Pinkerton. There's a great fight going on amongst the Fangio Cup competitors again. Having recovered from his spin, David Tagg is now back on the coattails of Peter Devlin. Both of these drivers having competed in the 2017 championship, and just ahead of them is the 3rd car that runs in the Fangio class, and that is the current class leader, the number 24 car in the hands of the 49-year-old from Hertford, that being Paul Clark. So all 3 of those very much together. Here they come, look, in towards the braking area for Lodge Corner. Paul Clark leading the Fangio class, driver who's competed really just in track days before. We haven't seen him in competitive racing, and he's not done many of those, but he's leading the class in the Gen 2 Radical SR1. Of course, all of them powered by identical 1340cc RP RPE-tuned Suzuki engines, and are not slow at all. 0 to 60s around 3.5 seconds, and in these conditions at Oulton Park, they're matching the times of the GT4 cars in the British GT Championship, so they're not slow cars at all running, of course, a Control Hankook treaded tyre nowadays. Over Hilltop comes our race leader, James Pinkerton. You can see the advantage he's got now. Clear daylight between himself and Will Hunt, who is a little way adrift now in second place. But that's not meaning that James Pinkerton is going to ease his pace at all. He missed out on the championship last year. He's going to want to mount a real challenge for it this year. As further down through the order, we still have this great fight going on for 6th, 7th and 8th places. And more importantly, for the lead of the Fangio class, Paul Clark just ahead of Peter Devlin at this stage, but there's not a great deal to choose between the pair of them, and any mistake at all, look into the background, and the third car is there as well, and that is the car of David Tagg. So the little trio work their way out of Britain's and press on over Hilltop in towards the braking area for Hislops, but the order still remains the same. Now, this time through, David Tagg is starting to close in, I think, on the pair ahead, both Peter Devlin and Paul Clark, so the trio almost fully formed now through the final left-hand element of Hislops up towards the right-hander at Knickerbrook. They'll be flat out on the power now as they start to accelerate their way up Clay Hill. This, of course, is not just the fight for 6th, 7th and 8th place. This is the fight for the lead of the Fangio Cup, and it is Paul Clark, the rookie, who continues to lead at this stage from his far more experienced competitors. The first of which is the car with the red and blue headlamp covers. That's Peter Devlin. He started first racing in the Radical SR1 Cup back in 2016, and then it's the car with the gold and the black flashes to the headlamp covers. That's David Tagg. He's been around for a season or so as well. So onto the brakes, through the right-hander at Lodge Corner. All of the time they continue to squabble for the lead of the Fangio class. Out front, of course, still leading, is James Pinkerton, runner-up in last year's championship. So onto the 4th lap of the race. The order still remaining the same for what is 6th, 7th and 8th positions, and it is the Gen 2 Radical SR1 in the hands of rookie Paul Clark, who continues to lead the pair of Gen 1 machines, the first of which is Peter Devlin, the second of which is David Tagg. So round through Cascades, on towards Lakeside once more. This is where you might just pick up a bit of a tow from the car ahead, but I don't quite think that the little trio are close enough, so they should still be in the same order as they turn their way through Island Bend. Daunting left-hander at Island Bend. You carry a lot of speed through there. The aerodynamics on these cars working beautifully well through the fast sections of the circuit, and then round through the banked section almost at Shell Oil's corner. From there, of course, it's on to the accelerator and back up through the gears before you head in towards Britain's. Now, by the look of things, David Tagg is closer this time to Peter Devlin. If he gets a good exit coming out of Britain's, he might give himself half a chance to maybe have a quick look up the inside as they head in towards Hislops. And all of this is just allowing the number 24 car of Paul Clark to pull away a shade more. Is David Tagg going to be able to get close enough? No, not quite. He opts to just sit back behind again. Peter Devlin follows him through the initial right and then the left flick at Hislops, and then from there they continue to turn right as they get towards Knickerbrook, and then it climbs uphill once more round through what is another very daunting part of the circuit, the flat-out right-hander at Druids, which they're just approaching now. But it is still the same order. Paul Clark from Peter Devlin, from David Tagg at the wheel of that number 95 car, flashes his way past our camera position at Druids, and then they're up towards the conclusion of yet another lap before too much longer, through the undulations of the circuit underneath the Warwick Bridge and up towards Lodge, which will chalk another lap into the book. So on to lap number 5 they will very shortly go, whilst all of the time our race leader is pulling away at the lead of his number 22 machine. Through Knickerbrook goes James Pinkerton. We did see James claim wins in the championship last year, but it was towards the tail end of the season. He claimed a win at Donington Park and a win at Snetterton. We didn't even see him feature on the podium in either of the races at Oulton Park, because in the first race of the 2017 season, he was 5th in race number 1 and finished just off the podium in 4th place in race number 2. Now we're side by side for second in the Fangio class, and there has been a change because David Tagg has made it through and ahead of Peter Devlin, so gains a position. He's now up into 7th position is David Tagg, and now what can he do? A, about pulling away from Peter Devlin, and B, about closing in on the driver that still leads the Fangio class, Paul Clark, at this stage, of course, making his debut in the Radical SR1 Cup, and at the moment he's still got daylight between himself and the car that sits behind, which is the car now of David Tagg. So through and out of Druids they'll go, up towards the braking area for Lodge Corner. It looks as though they're closing in also on the next of the cars just up the road, which is Gavin McAlpine, the 41-year-old from Bicester in his first season of racing. You could just see McAlpine's car in shot there as the pack behind. And there is Gavin McAlpine again, just briefly going through shot. Now head on to lap number 6. Still with Paul Clark leading. Still with not that far behind him now, David Tagg in his newly acquired 7th position. And as they sprint their way along Dentons and down in towards Cascades, the gap without question is certainly closing. It looks as though after his spin, David Tagg has got lots of momentum now and is now getting a very good exit coming off Cascades. And I don't think there's a lot this time through that Paul Clark's going to be able to do about it as they head down through Lakeside up towards Island Bend. And David Tagg has squeezed his way through. He's gone from 3rd in the class to 1st in the class within a lap of the race. So great recovery following that spin earlier on. He's working those hand-coupe tyres very hard. Just needs to be careful that he doesn't overwork them as the race begins to wear on, because that might give an opportunity for others to come back at him. And now he's also got the possibility that he could gain another place. He's up to 6th. Well, 5th is very much on the cards, because number 17, Gavin McAlpine, is just up the road. And such is the pace at this stage of the race that David Tagg has got. Well, certainly he's got half an opportunity of catching Gavin McAlpine. It's then whether he's got the pace and the opportunity to try and squeeze his way past. For the moment, though, he's got to catch, and he's not quite managed to do that as yet as he works his way yet again through the Knickerbrook area of the circuit. There goes Paul Clark, no longer leading the Fangio class, and down to 7th overall. Peter Devlin's not too far behind as well. The Fangio class really has provided some of the very best racing of round 1 of the 2018 Radical SR1 Championship. And don't forget that the SR1s will be back out again throughout the course of the season. A slightly extended championship this year. It's up to 6 rounds and 12 races in total as James Pinkerton slithers his way round through Knickerbrook and starts to press on up Clay Hill, certainly with a handsome advantage now, almost a 30-second advantage between himself and the cars behind. That is one of the new Gen 2 cars recovering from the grass back onto the tarmac. Now, I have a feeling that may well be Will Hunt, the car that was in 2nd position. If it was, then he's certainly got plenty of enough time in hands that I don't think it will overly compromise his race. There goes Mark Williams in what is 3rd position. And, well, for Mark, he's not really had anybody to play with over the course of this race. He's got nobody in front, he's got nobody behind, but if it was a spin for Will Hunt, then he might be able to see his target ahead. He almost outbraked himself there coming in towards the braking area for Hislops. Missed the apex on the first right-hand element of the corner, but more lessons learnt for the rookie. Yeah, gathered up the moment and got the car turned into the corner without too much of a problem. Side by side further down through the order, that is Gavin McAlpine, who has now, by the look of things, been passed by David Tagg. So that is another position gained for David Tagg. That will put him now up into 5th position. It wasn't that long ago. He was down in 8th place, but after his spin, he really has found a lot more pace and is now really starting to push on. So David Tagg now up into 5th position. Gavin McAlpine down into 6th position. It will be Peter Devlin and Paul Clark that will still be squabbling over who's going to finish in 7th and 8th at this stage. But for David Tagg, another place gained for him, and seems to be gaining almost a place a lap. But the next car is just so far ahead. That is Mark Williams, who is in 4th place. I don't think it's going to get any better for David Tagg. Through Druids Corner, through the right-hander he goes. Gavin McAlpine, having just lost the place, turns his way through the right-hander a few moments afterwards. And he'll be desperate to try and hang on, if he can, to the tail end of the number 95 car and see whether he might be able to pressurise David Tagg into potentially making a mistake. Our race leader, though, is now well and truly amongst the traffic, so a lap has now been put on the 2 cars that run in the final 2 places, that being number 24 Paul Clark and Peter Devlin are both now a lap down as James Pinkerton is able to pick them off. The marshals waving the blue flags, the drivers staying out of the way to allow the race leader to pass through at uncompromised speed, and now James Pinkerton is on to lap number 8 at this stage, so through Old Hall Corner. There is another car that's parked on the right-hand side of the circuit and recovering. That car has had a spin and bounced the barriers by the look of things, and that's got gold flashes to it. So that is David Tagg, who was going well and clearly has made a mistake by the look of things. You can see the tail end of that car is somewhat awry, and the only reason I could imagine that that has happened is because the car has either had a wing failure coming through the corner or maybe has had a spin and bumped the barriers slightly. Either way, he's able to continue, but the handling of that car is not quite going to be what it was anymore. And it now means that Paul Clark, number 24, is back into the lead of the Fangio class and is still under pressure from Peter Devlin, who seems to have had a very busy race indeed, this little pair. And now they're fighting over 1st and 2nd in the Fangio class following that very unfortunate mistake or problem for David Tagg at the first corner, that being Old Hall. So through the right-hander at Druids go the pair fighting over the lead for the Fangio class. Paul Tagg now back up into what will be 6th position once more. Peter Devlin up into 7th position. David Tagg has recovered. It is still circulating, but no longer in 5th. He's now down into 8th position, and our race leader is on his last lap. He heads in towards the Britain's chicane and starts to accelerate his way over Hilltop. James Pinkerton, who finished runner-up in the championship last year. We saw him on the podium on 4 separate occasions, 2 wins, a 2nd and a 3rd place. But here at Oulton Park, it looks as though he's on for his first victory of the 2018 season. Round through Knickerbrook, he's not under any pressure at all, so James Pinkerton can just afford to stroke the car home, and he will claim top honours in the first round of the new 2018 Radical SR1 Cup. Didn't quite go to plan for the pole sitter James Harper-Allen, retiring on the very first lap, but for James Pinkerton, his season is going to get off to the best possible start. Onto the brakes and in towards the final right-hander at Lodge Corner. Safely through the right-hander. It's now just hard on the accelerator up dearly where the checkered flag will await, and it is going to be James Pinkerton that claims top honours in the first race of the season for the Radical SR1 Cup. It was a great race from him, pulled away, and really then there was nothing else that anybody else could offer up, and it does look as though for the Fangio class, I don't think Peter Devlin is quite going to catch Paul Clark on the run towards the checkered flag, so it looks as though it is going to be Paul Clark that will complete the top 6 by the look of things, but more importantly, as far as he is concerned, he will be the winner of the Fangio class. A very hard-fought class as well it was in that race, with Peter Devlin, David Tagg and Paul Clark, I think, all leading the class at various stages throughout the course of the race, but it will be Paul Clark, the rookie, that claims top honours in the Fangio class for drivers aged over 45. Confirmation then of the results. It's a win for James Pinkerton with Will Hunt in 2nd place, and Chris Short completes the podium in 3rd. Mark Williams was 4th ahead of Gavin McAlpine, and the Fangio class winner Paul Clark in 6th place. Peter Devlin and David Tagg were the last of the finishers.
At the hairpin I could see Will coming for me, so at that point I'm like, okay, I've got to keep pushing. So yeah, got my head down again and went for it.
Don't quite know what happened off the start. We had a plan, and the plan went better than expected. And the next thing I know, turn 2's come up and we were already second. So couldn't have hoped for a better start.
Exceeded my expectations. So yeah, I think I had an open tarmac the whole race, and car was perfect. Great coach in Tom Ashton, and yeah, really happy.
Yeah, wasn't expecting this at all. So it's a good end to the first race. I was just glad to get to the end, really. So after 20 minutes, you're ready for it to end. You know, it's quite physical. So no, that's brilliant. I wasn't expecting this at all.